The white cheeks, the long arms, the way it stood like a human. And then, without warning, it reached out and slapped me hard across the face. The force of the blow sent me stumbling back, my catapult flying out of my hand, and the whistle knocked from my lips. Life in our village was full of fun and adventure. Especially for us boys. With all the energy we had, there was never a dull moment. We were always up to something, and the bush was our playground. My friends Danso, Kofi, and I were inseparable. We had our trusty catapults, ready to take on any bird that dared cross our path. But what happened one day in the thick bamboo forest on the edge of our village is something I'll never forget. My name is Soa. This is one of my stories. Please subscribe to Adventures of Soa to enjoy captivating stories about me and the beauty of Africa. It started like any other day. The sun was high in the sky, casting its golden rays over the village. We had just finished our chores and couldn't wait to head out. My mouth felt dry, and I could feel the slight itch of excitement as I hung my catapult around my neck. I had my special whistle, a gift from my grandfather, which I used to mimic the calls of different birds. I was particularly good at mimicking the blue-cheeked bee-eater, a beautiful bird with vibrant green plumage and, of course, blue cheeks. It was my favorite, and I'd learned its call perfectly. Danso, Kofi, and I headed towards the bush, chatting and laughing along the way. The trees were tall and thick, their branches forming a canopy that filtered the sunlight into soft beams. The air was filled with the sound of birds chirping, insects buzzing, and the rustling of leaves as small animals moved through the underbrush. We felt at home here, the forest was our friend. We walked quietly, our eyes scanning the treetops for any sign of movement. Suddenly, there it was, a flash of green darting between the branches. I knew instantly it was a blue-cheeked bee-eater. My heart skipped a beat as I brought the whistle to my lips and blew softly. The sound was perfect, a gentle call that floated through the air, echoing through the trees. The bird responded, perched high on a branch, curious. Danso was ready, his catapult drawn back, stone loaded. He aimed, and I held my breath. The bird fluttered its wings, as if teasing us, and just as Danso released the stone, it took off, leaving his shot to sail harmlessly into the sky. We groaned in disappointment, but couldn't help but laugh. The bird was too quick for us. Determined not to go home empty-handed, we ventured deeper into the forest. The trees grew denser, and soon we found ourselves at the edge of a bamboo grove. The bamboo was tall and thick, their stalks swaying gently in the breeze, creating a soft, whispering sound that filled the air. It was a place we had never been before, and there was something about it that made my skin prickle. I brought the whistle to my lips again, and blew. The sound echoed through the bamboo, but this time, something strange happened. The bamboo stalks began to sway more vigorously, and I noticed an unusual movement deep within the grove. My heart started to race. I blew the whistle again, and the movement came closer. The tree swayed again, and it wasn't the wind. Danso was the first to react. He quickly loaded his catapult and fired into the trees. Kofi and I followed suit, stones flying through the air, disappearing into the bamboo. For a moment, there was silence. And then we heard it, a rustling, a sound like something moving towards us. My mouth went dry, and my hands shook as I loaded another stone. I fired my shot, the stone disappearing into the bamboo, and then we saw it, something dark and shadowy, hanging from the branches, moving slowly towards us. It was like nothing I had ever seen before. It had the body of a monkey, but its arms were long, and its face was strange, with white cheeks that stood out against its dark fur. My heart stopped, and I couldn't move. The creature swung from branch to branch, moving with ease and grace. It came into full view, and I realized it wasn't a monkey at all. It stood up, its eyes gleaming as it looked right at me. I couldn't breathe. It walked out of the bamboo grove and towards us. I could feel Danso and Kofi beside me, frozen in place, but when the creature moved closer, they didn't wait to see what would happen next. They ran, leaving me alone with this strange being. The creature was almost upon me now, and I could see every detail of its face, the white cheeks, the long arms, the way it stood like a human. And then, without warning, it reached out and slapped me hard across the face. The force of the blow sent me stumbling back, my catapult flying out of my hand, and the whistle knocked from my lips. My cheek burned, and tears welled up in my eyes. The creature looked at me for a moment, its eyes narrowing, as if deciding whether to do more. But then it turned away and vanished back into the bamboo. I stood there, stunned and humiliated, my cheek throbbing with pain. I couldn't believe what had just happened. With a shaky breath, I turned and ran, not stopping until I reached the safety of my home. When I told my mother what had happened, she listened quietly and then nodded. "That was a white-cheeked black gibbon," she said. "They are very smart animals. You must be careful around them." Before we continue further, please click the subscribe button below, for more adventures of Soa. Have you done that? Okay, let's continue. The next day at school was even worse. I walked in with a swollen cheek, trying to hide it, but it was no use. The other children were curious, and the teacher, a stern woman with a sharp tongue, noticed immediately. "Soa," she said, "why is your face swollen? And why didn't you do your assignment?" I had no good answer. I mumbled something about being too busy, but she wasn't having it. She made me sit at the front of the class as punishment, where everyone could see my swollen cheek. I could hear the whispers and giggles, especially from Hannah, a girl who always seemed to enjoy my misfortunes. I hated it. Danso and Kofi, of course, had done their assignments. They sat at the back, whispering and laughing among themselves, while I sat there, miserable. All eyes were on me, and I couldn't stop thinking about the gibbon and the slap that still burned on my cheek. Just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, something happened that sent a chill down my spine. The classroom grew quiet, too quiet, and I noticed that everyone was looking out the window with fear and panic. I turned slowly, my heart pounding, and there it was, the white-cheeked black gibbon, and it wasn't alone. It had brought 2 of its friends. The gibbons were approaching the school, moving with that same eerie grace, their eyes fixed on the classroom. The teacher had long disappeared, and the students began to run, pushing and shoving to get out through the other door. I was frozen in place, my mind racing, trying to figure out what to do. Why were they after me? What did they want? The gibbons entered the classroom, their eyes scanning the room. I knew they were looking for me. I couldn't take it anymore. I jumped out of the window, landing hard on the ground, and took off running as fast as I could. I heard the shouts of the male teachers trying to scare the animals away, but I didn't stop to see what happened next. I just wanted to get home, away from the gibbons, away from the shame, away from everything. But as I ran, I couldn't help but think that this wasn't over. The gibbons had found me once, they could find me again. And the thought of that sent a shiver down my spine that I knew I'd never forget. This is the end of my story. Please subscribe.